Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Staying Sane with Jay and Hussein. I'm Jay,
Yeah,
and my partner in crime, or my partner in
Husane.
sanity, is Hussein. Hey,
Yeah,
everybody, welcome and
yes.
thank you for tuning in. So let's jump right in. We have quite a bit for this week. There's a lot that's been happening in Israel. Those of you who have been following the news on your own will obviously know what's been going on. So let me give you a quick recap. So, earlier in the week, the UN paused aid operations in Gaza due to Israeli evacuation orders. But by yesterday, they were back in distributing polio vaccines, which has seen an explosion and a resurgence since the start of the hostilities in October. So that's
Mm.
unfortunate, but at least the vaccines are getting through. Also, this week in Palestine, Israel launched a major counterterrorism offensive in the West Bank, not in Gaza. However, in the West Bank, Israeli extremists are also using the operation as cover for their own bad behavior against Palestinians. The BBC reports approval for new Jewish settlements that are taking privately owned land for new settler houses and outposts. Even though the settlements are considered illegal under international law, this does not stop Jewish zealots from stealing the land of the Palestinians. However, Israeli domestic intelligence chief warned ministers that Jewish extremists in the West Banks were carrying out acts of, quote, terror and causing, quote, indescribable damage to the country. The Israeli human rights organization, apologies if I get this wrong, B'Tselem, stated that Israeli settler harassment has forced Palestinians out of at least 18 villages in the West Bank. What term would you use to describe these kinds of actions? Sadly, 6 hostages from the October 7th kidnapping were murdered by Hamas moments before the IDF reached their location. Netanyahu said his government was committed to achieving a deal to release those remaining in captivity and protects the country's security, but added, quote, whoever murders hostages does not want a deal, end quote. However, the Hostages Families Forum announced plans to, quote, bring the nation to a halt yesterday. Those of you who are watching the news would have seen the demonstrations happening yesterday asking that the Israeli public join the protests in Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, and elsewhere and call for a hostage exchange deal. Israel's defense minister urged Netanyahu to negotiate a ceasefire with Hamas to bring the remaining hostages home. In addition to the hostage families, the major civil service union joined the call for a nationwide strike today, demanding the government conclude a hostage deal. Further, the mayor of Tel Aviv said his municipality would join the strike. This is a developing story, as just hours ago, the Israeli Labor Court ordered an end to the strike, but thousands of protesters are on the streets. The Hostages and Missing Families Forum announced there will be more protests tonight, including at Netanyahu's residence. Additionally, Gili Roman, who had two of his family members taken hostage by Hamas in October, one of his sisters was returned and another was killed just a few days ago, stated, and I quote, I don't see any remorse from this government. Hussein, over to you.
Yeah, one point that I would like to raise here or as a doubt to you is that don't you think that this incident of this murder of the hostages by the Hamas forces, even hours before when they were getting rescued, uh, the chances of getting rescued, isn't it going to give more reasons for Israel to keep on fighting against them?
Exactly. Of course, this just feeds the narrative that peace can never be achieved. So,
Mm.
when both sides act badly, what
Mhm.
hope does anybody have? Like the people who are suffering have no hope. The people who are like the Israelis who are justifiably upset over the inhumanity that they are witnessing from their government are upset. That's why we're seeing these protests and these calls for a strike. Even like senior ministers in the Israeli government and the military are calling on Netanyahu to step down or to at least
Mhm.
deal with things properly. So yeah, I mean, obviously Hamas doing this is it's only going to further stoke,
Yeah,
hostility and opposition. So I mean, this
there.
this was a perfect opportunity for Hamas to show some goodwill and let those hostages go. By murdering them, they've only shown themselves to be inhuman, barbaric
Only
shitwads.
not just showing that they are inhuman or that they are they are wise in that, but they are the real terrorists. Isn't that getting more and more established and getting shown to
Well,
the
that's the
to the,
problem is one
yeah.
one terrorist act creates another,
I
right? So for
one
every
thing,
time,
Jay, I think people are complaining about the volume. So is
no,
there any problem?
they're saying it's okay. I can hear you fine. So maybe it was a
Okay.
volume up, but
Yeah,
they're saying it's okay now.
yeah, even I'm also able to hear, but
Yeah, I hear you fine.
okay, okay, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, any act, violent act just begets more violent act. It's tit for tat. I smack you, I kill your brother, you get pissed off, you kill my sister. You killed my sister, I kill your cousin, and back and forth and back and forth. And it just
Hmm.
like saner heads need to prevail.
No,
And
no,
that's the problem is,
yeah, but in this instance, there is a clear difference. That is, uh, those people who are getting murdered by the Hamas right now are not just someone who is getting killed during the process of a killing spree or a kind of attack, but they are the hostages who are being kept in their captivity, and they are being seen as a trade-off for a ceasefire, for a trade-off for ending the war itself. So in that way, when they are uh, directly targeting these hostages and killing them, that is giving more chances or more reasons for Israel to keep on fighting. That's what I was raising as a
yeah,
point.
for sure. But Netanyahu doesn't want a peace deal anyway. So you can see this from all the protests and the hostages
Mm,
families forum. Like they know Netanyahu doesn't give a shit. He's using Hamas as a bargaining chip to keep himself in power. He
mm,
doesn't want to bring hostages home, then he loses that leverage. The longer he can keep the hostages contained, the longer
mm,
he can keep painting Hamas, in a negative way. Obviously, they are, negative to begin with, but
mm,
he can keep
mm.
using them as a rhetorical weapon rather than trying to come up with a reasonable solution.
But
So,
in that case, aren't we just legitimizing the claim that even the October 7th attack is a an insider job?
you mean it was an Israeli insider job? Well, there
Yeah.
have been
Mm,
speculation that,
yeah. A
like
kind
Pearl
of a
Harbor,
conspiracy.
Israel knew it was coming and they let it happen. So,
Mm,
only the people in the highest corridors of power would have access to that information. All we can do is
mm.
speculate on conspiracy theories, and that's my brother's
That's
thing.
not the
That's
right.
not my thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not
So,
right way, but when we say like it's giving or using the hostages, and we when Netanyahu or the ruling party over there, when they are trying to use them as a reason to stick on to the power and to woo those people who are interested in fighting and other things, then it's a kind of rolling back effect, a kind of a slippery slope, which might end up an even agreeing that even the October 7th attack could be an insider job. It could reach even to that point. That's what I was asking.
yeah. Um, I'm just reminded you said something that triggered a memory. It was about a week
Mm,
ago. If I mentioned it last week, I do apologize to our viewers, but one of my Jewish friends, secular Jewish friends,
mm,
he sent me a link to a discussion. I believe it was from I can't remember the name. I'd have to look up the name of the organization. It's a Jewish organization, a
mm,
secular Jewish organization, and they were discussing October 7th and the failures.
mm,
And they mentioned, and it was a really, they had two or three really interesting points. One was that the critical failure by the Israeli Defense Forces on October the 7th, that Hamas was able to penetrate as far as they did.
mm,
This Jewish podcast mentioned that because there was no effective opposition from the Israeli Defense Forces, Hamas could have done way more damage than they did. They could have gone much further into the country. They could have caused much more havoc. They
yeah.
didn't. They came in, they did what they did, and they pulled back. The other point they made, which I hadn't thought about it from that perspective, was that Joe Biden and his administration is going to go down in history as abetting the Palestinian genocide
Mm,
when all of this shakes out because of their unwavering support and arming of Israel to
mm,
continue uh, what they're doing, rather than like these calls from the Israelis themselves for their government
mm,
to negotiate with Hamas and bring the hostages home. Because Netanyahu clearly doesn't want to do that,
yeah.
or he would
So
have done it by now.
yeah, even at this point, when we say uh, for if we agree to the argument that the hostages and their plight is being used as a trump card for remaining in the power by the Netanyahu and other people like them. In that case, there lies a void where there's no call for freeing the hostages from the eminent bodies like UN or other people, just as they were raising their voices against the killings that's happening in Gaza, the children getting killed, the innocent people getting killed, and other aspects of that. So there obviously lacks a balance or a kind of an ignorance, an overlooked aspect where the hostages were completely ignored. If they are freed on time, as per the calls or the reasons cited by Israel side, in that way the war could have ended even much before. So when this is not getting promoted as the main aspect of the core reason for this war, and only one argument from the side of the Hamas, even when they are using them, their civilians as the human shield and all, in that way, it is clearly showing an ignorance or a kind of a purposeful. Uh, People are trying to avoid that cause as a reason for this war, the hostages. So even at this point, when we say that they are being used, it's not going hand in hand. It is again giving more chances for the Netanyahu to stick on to their power and to use it as a reason to attack. That's what I was
Yeah.
seeing in this.
Yeah, and that's what everyone's been accusing Netanyahu of, that
Mm,
he's using delaying tactics to draw out the fight, for whatever his reasons are. One, to keep his own ass out of jail for all the corruption charges he's facing, to
mm,
hang on to power, to use it as an excuse for, like, as I said, like his rhetoric goes back decades.
mm, mm,
You
mm,
know, and I pulled up one video. I can play it if you'd be interested. That shows, I was looking for the original video of Netanyahu saying, "Oh, he wants to kill me," but I found just the guy talking about it. So,
mm.
oh,
Okay.
it's crazy, 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 crazy
So
world.
I can take one news from my side. That's from India
Sure.
itself that came 2 days back. That is a migrant killed in Haryana, a state in India, on suspicion of eating beef. You know that India respects cows a lot, and that's for religious reasons that they do it. But there's also a kind of a cow vigilantism where people just form a
I've heard
kind
of
of
this.
a
They've
kind of
they've they've
army.
they've attacked and killed Muslims on the street before. I've heard.
Yes, yes, yes. So that's what is going on here. And this time, a person called, um, his name is Malik. That is Salim Malik, Sabir Malik. He's the person who got killed by uh, accusing him of eating beef. So Haryana is a state where there is a significant restriction for eating cow meat, and that's for religious reasons. And here again, this person was caught, and he was called into his shop, and in the guise of ordering some other things for doing some other business, and at the same point he was getting killed. So a kind of mob lynching. That's what happened there. So anyway, the police intervened, and the persons behind them, they were arrested. That is including two minors. 5 people have been arrested for this incident. So this is what happened here. So I think this particularly is something that is related to the belief system. It's particularly related to religion. That's what we are, or I am trying to convey here, because most of the time what happens is that will be accused of something being done by the ruling BJP government or some other people, and it is directly linked to the politics, and that's one way by which they just hijack this incident and use it as a reason for other accusing the politics. But that is usually backfiring in India, in Indian scenario. That's what I'm saying here. So in this incident, the real culprit is the religious belief, and we need to oppose that. And if you dig deep into the cow worshipping and how it gained prominence in Indian politics, it was not something that was brought in by the BJP or the ruling party here. It was brought in by the opposition who is sitting right now, the opposition. They were the real people who brought in this cow worshipping and using the cow as a major a religious item which can be used to pull out the votes from the people. So now it is really working in the opposite direction, which is given more chances for the ruling party now, and even it is now the reason for killing people. So anyway, the right now the government have enacted better laws to prevent this mob lynching, and I think this would be the first case which could be um, the, the right one, or the best way by which they can show how this could be dealt with in such an incident of mob lynching. So let's see how they are going to handle it. So that's one from India, my own country. So this,
Yeah,
I think,
I've read stories over the past
yeah,
5 years about that
and,
happening. So
yeah, and for this same reason, India was at one point of time, India was called as Lynchistan instead of Hindustan. So
uh, sorry, that's not funny to laugh at, but
yeah, but
it's
that's
tragic.
how.
But
Anyway, in the beginning of this last 10 years rule, in the beginning 5 years, this was more common, but afterwards, it was getting down and it was less in number, almost non-existent in the past 2 or 3 years. We were not hearing about any such news, but now again we saw one now. So this is happening, and we must do something against this. And for the people of India, especially, you need to agree that if you believe in freedom of speech, you must also um, agree regarding this freedom of food, freedom of choice, and everything belongs to this. So this is something related to the personal rights and personal freedom, which is getting or becoming as a reason to getting killed. So that's not the right way. So this is something which I can share it from here. So you can go further by the time I'll take the
okay,
next one. Yeah.
okay. Here we go. Oops, sorry. Just pull up my notes. Okay.
Mm.
And this week it was announced that Pope Frank has set off on a 12-day tour of Asia Pacific, with his first stop in Indonesia, where he will be accompanied by the Grand Imam, and both are scheduled to take part in an interfaith gathering. The visit is considered important for the church, as Asia is one of the few places where it's actually growing. Frank's last stop will be Singapore, and analysts are speculating that the stop is part of the Vatican's efforts to improve its ties with China, which is home to an estimated 12 million Catholics. And speaking of the Vatican and China, last week the church reported that China has finally officially recognized the Bishop of Tianjin, whom the Vatican installed in 2019. The Holy See described China's official recognition of him under civil law as a, quote, positive fruit of the dialogue established over the years between the Holy See and the Chinese government. If you'd like to know a little bit more about the history and the controversial tug of war between church and state over the investiture of bishops, I would suggest, and I pulled it up, let me share the screen here. I've written about this topic in my book. Where's the share present? If you want to know more about this, is a really interesting topic. Hang on, where are
Hmm.
we? You, can you see my screen now?
So it does not yet
It's not. Oh,
arrived
hang
here.
on.
Yeah. Anyway,
Slide or screen.
we have more number of viewers this day. Thank you so much for all the viewers who join with us. Every Monday, the same time, we are having this discussion. So you can join us. You can even suggest us topics or some news items as well. So
Yeah,
this is a great opportunity for you to. Okay, we can in the future we
you can
can
see.
even try engaging them for dialogue for some kind of
Yeah,
discussions as well. What do you
for
think?
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be fine. You can see my screen now?
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay, so yes, the investiture controversy. So this erupted in the 11th and
Mm,
12th centuries. It was a big battle between, it started with the Pope Gregory VII and the Holy Roman Emperor Henry IV. Um, and you can actually see it. It's right here. Struggle between Henry IV and Gregory VII. If you're interested in this topic, I would suggest you can check out the Wikipedia page on the investiture
mhm,
controversy. It gives some good background on this. We've been seeing this, particularly with China, over the last,
mhm,
say, 15 years, that there's been
mm,
this battle between whether the country has a right to appoint a bishop or whether the church does. Now, historically, it's been the country that appointed the bishops in its country, but then the Vatican took that over during the investiture controversy, and then it's raised its head again in China recently. So if that is a history that you're interested in, check out the investiture controversy
Hmm.
Wikipedia page. So yeah, and there'll
Okay.
probably be some if there's if I haven't not done a video on it on my own personal channel, it's coming up. I have mentioned it in other videos, but I don't think I've done one specifically on that. But check out the page. It's got some interesting history if that's your thing. So
Okay.
okay, and back to you.
So now we have something from Bangladesh that's about the release of terrorist leaders by the caretaker um, government, the government under the Nobel Peace Prize laureate Muhammad Yunus. I don't know how he's trying to bring peace into this Bangladesh, being a Nobel Peace Prize laureate. This person, that is Ansarullah, Jashimuddin Rahmani. That's the name of the terrorist, and he's the chief of the terrorist outfit called Ansarullah Bangla Team, ABT. That's it. So it's a an organization which is affiliated to the bigger one, that is the Al Qaeda, which is pretty well known all over the world. The organization which was involved in the Twin Tower attacks and other things. So this organization has carried out many such attacks over, especially in Bangladesh, that was carried out over those people who were criticizing Islam and other things. Like the recent one, or the reason why he was jailed, was about the hacking, the death of a blogger in 19. The year was in. Uh, okay, let's see. So that was the reason why he was jailed recently. Now he is getting released. So this is giving a very chilling sensation all to all the countries around the world, especially India, because India has already seen some of the affiliates to this organization, which is um some people related to this ABT, that is Bahar Mia and Rareli Mia. These were two people who were arrested recently from Assam, uh, one of the states in India. So they were identified as terrorists and they were arrested by the national security forces. So now India will be having much more difficult times before us, because these kind of people and terror outfits, they were relentlessly trying to bring about some kind of associations within India, some networks using the sleeper cells and carrying out various attacks all over India and even to other parts of South Asia and in this region particularly. So now it is again becoming a problem for this region. So this is something from this side. Yeah. One more news is there. I'll have it after yours.
That was all of my news.
Oh, okay. Anything to add on this? That is about the
Uh,
release of this terrorist.
no, just what I. Oh, did you? I don't think you did talk about the
Ah,
prisoners being released from the House of Mirrors. Did you want to cover that, or you want me to do it?
which
Or
one?
the House of Mirrors, the release of all the disappeared political prisoners in Bangladesh?
Yeah, you can. You can just go on.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
let me just copy this back so I can put it back in my notes and have it big.
Yes.
Okay, so where are we? Back to streaming. Okay, so also in Bangladesh this week, Bangladesh is nominally a secular country, but it has a Muslim majority, as most of us know. However, the political prisoners or the disappeared are being
Mm.
released from government prisons, including the notorious House of Mirrors in Dhaka. One recently released man was arrested in 2019 for campaigning for the rights of minority groups, particularly Buddhists, who make up just 2% of the population. The
Mm.
interim government this week established a 5 member commission to investigate the cases of enforced disappearances by the security agencies during Sheikh Hasina's rule starting in 2009. Those who have survived want justice. Quoting one of the victims, we want the perpetrators to be punished. All the victims and their families should be compensated. Okay,
Mm.
and that's the news
Yep.
from Bangladesh.
Okay. And one more news is there, which is from Bangladesh, but it's related to the Rohingyas. So last day it was the Rohingya, the International Rohingya Genocide Remembrance Day. That was it. So it's the sixth anniversary of that. So people were uh, praying and voicing their concerns over this genocide which is going on in Rohingyans above them. So they are living, a huge number of people who are living in Bangladesh as refugees from Myanmar. So one of the main uh, point that they were trying to raise is that international support for them is not very much present. So they need more support, and they need more. Uh, they need to bring about their concerns to the international community and to get them back home. That's what their main idea was. So that was one reason. But we can see here one hypocrisy from the Muslim world, where you will be seeing a lot of cries and hues and cries for the people of Gaza. But when this is happening here, and it's also something related to the Chinese persecution of Muslims, you can see there is a hypocrisy where these Muslims are silent. So this is one kind of a genocide, a true genocide, which happened, which is so unfortunate and shouldn't happen anymore, or it should end, and these people should be going back to their homes. There's no doubt in that. But this is an instance to show the world, or for the people to understand how these people, those people who are against genocide and against these kind of war crimes and other things, who are silent, keeping silence about some of the incidents like this from the Rohingyans or from the Chinese persecuted Muslims, the Uyghur Muslims, and some other people like in the Yemen or in the Afghanistan or all over the world. So even last time we saw some news coming from Afghanistan, where there's a, a covert attempt of an overt attempt of gender apartheid that's carried out on the females of that country. That is, they are not able to voice, they raise their voice, not able to study, not able to walk outside. They are not even able to show their faces. They are now asked to completely wear that blue burqa thing, and that's how they are being completely kept outside human interaction and from the public life. So that's a kind of gender apartheid which is really happening in this world, and no one is caring about that, especially the Muslim community. They're only focused on what's going on in Gaza. So that's a kind of a hypocrisy where they are selectively provocative, selectively protesting against such atrocities. So if you really wish to of against these kind of atrocities, we have even more troubles, even more problems that is being faced by the Muslims. So this is one such instance. That's what I would like to uh, bring about here. Thank you.
You okay?
Yes.
So is that all of our news for this week?
Yep. I'm done.
Okay,
We can call it
you're
a
done.
day, I think.
Okay, I just one
Yep.
announcement for our viewers.
Mm,
I think I have mentioned previously in previous weeks. Uh, I have been trying to arrange a discussion between an Israeli and a Palestinian.
mm,
I'm happy to announce, just before the show started, we have a confirmed date and time. It will be this coming Sunday at 1 p.m. in Tel Aviv, which would be noon in like Geneva. So
mm-hmm.
that's probably what, 11 a.m. in London. So if
Okay.
late morning in London or early afternoon in Europe, we will be having a discussion between a Palestinian. Actually, I wrote it all out. Let me just read what I wrote.
Okay.
We will host a reasoned discussion between a Palestinian economist and an Israeli secularist on a peaceful solution, if one can actually be found, for the region. Feel free to tune in. It will be held live, as I said, 1 p.m. in Tel Aviv.
Mm-hmm.
Our moderators will boot any trolls who make unhelpful comments. So please,
Sure.
by all means, come, join, listen in, participate, be respectful. As I said, if you make anti-Semitic or anti-Palestinian comments, you'll be booted out by our moderators. This is to be a reasoned and a rational discussion between two reasonable people about a peaceful way forward for Palestine and Israel. So please do
Great.
tune in this Sunday.
Yeah, I'll
We will,
post the details on my channel on the
yeah.
community post, so you'll get the details and the joining links and all,
Yeah,
or the viewing
we
links.
will
Yeah.
yeah, we'll
Yeah.
create the post for that shortly. So
Yeah.
right after this, we'll be creating that. So
Okay.
please tune in this Sunday and by all means, ask your questions. But please be respectful. So
Yeah.
great. Okay.
Yes. Great.
Thank you, everybody. All right.
Yes.
So that wraps it up for this week, and we will see everybody for what keeps us sane over the coming week. Take care, everybody. Bye
Yeah.
bye.
Take care. Bye.